Alright, this is kind of awkward. I guess I'll re-record this then. Oh my god. I can't believe my mic wasn't picking it up. I had to like re-plug in my mic to do this. I'll give you I'll try to reiterate what I've said so far. So, as a quick summary, basically, I said there are still some proportional issues. For example, I think the width of the shoulders, it's a little too wide, and so because of the width, the angle looks a little less steep than the angle we actually have in the reference. It's very subtle, but not that big of a problem. Just also for conventionally attractive female characters, if that's what you're going for, they typically have less broad shoulders, more usually seen in male characters where we give them like broader shoulders. And then another thing is that the way you shade things feels a little flat, and I think it's because a lack of edge control. Because I think the way you shaded this is like as one general smooth gradient, and the way it will read is not like this, right? It will read like this. Like this is the form that I'm cross contouring on her form, right? So I did a quick little paint over. I guess you could kind of rewatch that video on how I did a repaint. So yeah, so I just show you how I might go about changing the edge in this area. It's pretty rough, but this is a general idea of how I would go about it. I mean, it's pretty similar to the reference, to be honest, but I think this would be a lot more fitting than a very general gradient that you initially had. Another thing is that it seems like before. Okay, there are a couple of things I mentioned. So for the eyes, I think it's an improvement from before. Like I remember us talking about how the forms of the eyes, the forms of the eyelids and everything. So that it seems like you're doing a lot better. However, I think the reason it looks so flat is because we're making the eyes too white. Like the eyes are white, but with this lighting, like with this lighting scenario, it's definitely going to be a lot darker than you initially had it. Like the white of the eyes isn't actually white itself. Like if the eyes were white and it was in this lighting scenario, then it would be the color that you have it. But the eyes are like a mid-tone gray, right? So if it's a mid-tone gray under this lighting scenario, it would be a lot darker because its local value isn't actually white. And then I also like painted a little here because with the nose being in the way, I think we shouldn't paint the pupils as if it's like a 2D thing, because right now it feels very flat. So if we just add a little more shadow where there's supposed to be shadow, it will look a lot less flat. And then I noticed earlier that you had the lighting come from here. So like, it seems like it's directly coming from the side, right? And in this, I can tell this because your cast shadow is going directly this way. There are a couple of problems with this, because if the light is coming from directly on the side, then this plane of the mouth wouldn't be lit at all. Like it would just be a shadow value. And usually for the nose, I mean, this could depend on the person, but in my experience, the nostrils are a little higher than the bottom of the nose where it connects to the mouth, to the face. And so I don't know if it's just a preference thing. I'm just speed running the feedback, by the way. Sorry if this is like very like so direct, but yeah. Anyways, and the final thing that I noticed, two things, is the lighting, the way you lit the chin, the way you lit the forehead doesn't exactly match with the lighting scenario that you implied with the cast shadow of the nose. I'm using the nose as a reference point because it seems like the most solid place to start from. And also the bounce light coming from under shouldn't be this exaggerated. It should be a lot darker. But so what I said in the video was basically this light area basically implies that the light is coming from in front of her. Because if it was coming from the side, it would look something like this, right? And I can also tell it's coming from the side because clearly it's the side plane of the shoulder that you're shading. It's the side plane of the face you're shading. So I'm to keep things consistent. Once again, it still has to do with the consistency of lighting. And if it was coming from the side, the cast shadow would be a lot deeper. And so that's kind of what I did with the paint over, just really quickly keeping things as consistent as possible. I think when I see this, I'm glad that you're putting a lot of work in like doing studies and everything, and I think it's good. And you are making progress. I am beginning to feel, however, which is something I also said in the video, that perhaps doing this exercise might be a little too advanced for you at the moment. I think what you need right now is just sheer mileage. Because there are two things that I use when I'm painting a character and doing this exercise. Number one is like my experience with already having painting this face. So because I've painted a face in 3/4 with a side lighting, I can already know from experience that this lighting should have this overall shape we see on the face. That's one thing. And then another thing is like logical deduction, which is probably the main tool that you can use in your arsenal, but that will take a lot of time. I imagine that when you do this, you also struggle with, oh, like if the lighting's coming from here, then it's supposed to be like this, right? Or like it takes you a while to figure out which planes should be hit by light. And that's why I think just having a lot of mileage will help. And I know that's what you're already doing, so I won't say too much in this area. But yeah, keep going. And then eventually, once you do enough studies, it will become pretty easy. I also talked about how this plane should be hit by light because, you know, it's coming from the side. I also recommend you do like isolated feature studies because it seems like you struggle a lot with the eyes. Seems like you tend to make them very flat looking. So doing some like dedicated statue studies. I don't know if you know what I'm talking. You probably know what I'm talking about. Like the studies where it's just like a white statue sculpture, and then you just study like the eye. It's like a sculpture of the eye, and then you just do a study of it, and just do a lot of one-to-one studies. I think the lighting scenario is the lighting exercise is very important if you want to do like original splash art pieces, which is why I initially recommended it to you. But the more I'm seeing your studies, the more I'm realizing that it could be a little too much for you to handle at the moment. But I don't want that to discourage you because I think you're definitely making progress. But once you have more experience to also use as like training wheels almost, then you can go for this kind of exercise because you then know like, oh, I've painted a side lighting. This is how it should look. Yeah, so hopefully this was helpful. I was kind of frustrated that the mic wasn't working the first time around, but I'm gonna pray that it is okay. It is working. But yeah, good luck and keep at it, bro. You got this.